Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2000, and it's my pleasure to be here with Judge Bernardo Velasco, a 1974 graduate of the University of Arizona College of Law. Thanks for being with us today.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
Judge Velasco, can you tell me why you decided to go to law school?
Because my dad wanted me to be a geologist, and we used to have some mining claims, and we used to go out every weekend when I was a little kid, starting when I was about 7 or 8, and the idea of going to college and walking hills just didn't appeal to me. So I saw a man that used to come to town about once a week, and he'd have lunch with the mayor and lunch with a banker, and he wore a suit, and he had an office, and they told me he was the county attorney, and I said, that's what I'd like to be. I'd like to be a lawyer. I'd like to wear a suit, go to Hayden, have lunch with the mayor. That's
Good
it.
motivation.
Well, it beat walking those hills.
I would agree. Why'd you choose Arizona as the place to go to school?
My parents, from the time I was little, told all of us that we had to go to the U of A. So
No choice.
there was no choice.
Wise. How difficult was it to get into the law school at that time?
I came at a very interesting time. When I started college at the U of A, I thought about, as I said, being a lawyer. So I went to the law school, and I asked them, what does it take to get into law school? And they just, over the counter, said it takes a C average. And I said, great. And I was thinking about it, and I said, I'd done well in high school. And I thought about C's, and I said, my ego can't handle C's. But it sounds like I don't have to work to get A's in all my classes. So I just said, I'll do a B, a strong B, A's here, B's here, C's there, and I'll get into law school. So that was great. And I was also in the advanced ROTC program. So at about end of 1970, when I was going to graduate in 71, I had to decide whether I was going to take a regular Army commission. And if I took one, it meant I had to do 4 years of military service. And I also wanted to be a lawyer, so I went back to the law school. And I said, what would it take to get into law school? And they weren't as friendly. And what kind of grade average? And they said, what do you got? And I said, whoa. And I said, well, I got about a B plus. And they said, well, you'll get in. I said, how about 4 years? I don't know about 4 years. So it was a little tougher to get into law school than what I was told. And they never sent out a notice that the standards had changed. Later I found out what they did was they'd admit everybody who had a C average or more, and then flunk them out to a class of 140.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, did they do that with your class?
No, with my class, they'd only let in 140, 45, and only flunk out a few.
Great. So most of your classmates graduated with you?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's for the best.
Well, yeah, but it'd be nice to know when you're.
Yeah. You're one of those transitional people, huh?
Yeah.
How, well, you just said about how many students were in your class, so. What was the background of some of your classmates? Was it diverse?
It was. My class was the first class that I felt had an acceptable or respectable number of women and minorities. I think my class had about 20, which was quite a few when you consider that I think the other two classes might have had a total of 10. We had Indian students, we had Native American Indians, we had Hispanics, we had a couple of blacks, a lot of veterans, people coming back from Vietnam, and a lot of kids, people who were just coming right out of college.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good group.
Was there a significant number of married students?
Yeah, there were. I think most of them were veterans. They were married. I was married in the law school at that time. Yeah, there were married people. But it wasn't all single, which I don't know much about the law school now, but I think we had more married people then than you have now. But I'm not sure.
Was there a summer school when you were there?
Yes, but I didn't go.
What type of student activities did you participate in?
I participated in what we called ASAT, Any Sport, Anytime. It's an organization of kids who would rather play sports than go to school. I did a little bit of that. On a more serious vein, I was involved in the Minority Law Student Association at the time, which was the only diversity organization at the law school. I eventually became president, and I participated in minority student recruitment and made recommendations to the admissions board.
Great. What did you do? Oh, I'm sorry.
Not too much more than that, I guess.
What did you do during the summer then if you didn't go to summer school?
I went back home to Hayden, Arizona, and I worked in smelter. I had worked, by the time I graduated from law school, I think I'd worked 6 summers there. And I could earn in a summer all my college costs. So I came out relatively debt-free. I owed $1,500 for 7 years of college. So the mines were very good to me.
Yeah, that was good. What type of clinical programs did the law school have when you were there?
We had a neighborhood law office and another type of program. They were run by Andy Silverman, Kenny Hagelin, and Wayne Godere, who's no longer at the U of A. That was a good program. They were really great guys. Really great guys. It was fun.
Did you get to represent clients if you participated in that program?
Yeah, we an attorney was assigned within the community who volunteered to oversee several law students, participate in interviews of clients and preparation of documents. And at that time it was called 28E program. I think it's 38E now.
It is.
But so we could go into court, and what we had was one of the clinical staff at the U of A would look over our work, and then they'd supervise us when we went into justice court or city court or whatever it was. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was really enjoyable.
Good, good. Where did most of your classmates live at the time that they were in law school?
I have no idea. At the library? No. Actually, my friends didn't live at the library, but there were people who were there.
Tell me about the job market when you graduated.
The job market, well, when I graduated, I didn't have a job offer, so I didn't have any job prospects. So I guess for me they were dismal, but other people had jobs.
So fill me in between graduating with no job and becoming a judge. What have you done since then?
I passed the bar right away.
That's a good start.
I studied about 40 hours a week.
For the bar?
For the bar.
Yeah.
That's including the class. I mean, if I didn't pass the bar, then I'm not going to get a job. So it was a full-time job studying for the bar. A friend of mine who had previously graduated, Frank Zapata, he had a job at the Legal Aid Society. He went from the Legal Aid Society to the Federal Public Defender. I was hired to take his place
At Legal Aid?
at Legal Aid.
Oh, okay, great.
So I stayed at legal aid for a couple of years. Then I joined Frank at the Federal Public Defender's Office. Stayed there about 6.5 years. Did some trials, did some appeals. I argued one case in front of the United States Supreme Court, lost. Then about 1982, I became a part-time U.S. magistrate, and I went into private practice, and I stayed at home and took care of my kids for a little bit. And in 1985, I became a judge in Superior Court, and I've been here since then. So,
Other than Mr. Zapata, who you just mentioned, tell me about some of the other students that were in law school at the time that you were and where they've gone
okay.
that you know of.
Okay. Well, Frank Zapata is a United States District Court judge. I'm a Superior Court judge. Another one of my classmates, Michael Alford, he's a Superior Court judge here. Carter Morey, who was a Vietnam veteran, is an attorney in private practice here, personal injury practice. Another Vietnam veteran friend of mine, Tom Martin, is a senior litigator at the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Stephen Villarreal, who was a couple of years behind me, he's a Superior Court judge here. Richard Gonzalez is another private practice lawyer. He's here. Dorothy Delhay was a couple years behind me. She's a Superior Court judge in San Antonio. I'm mentioning mostly people who are on this photograph I think you're eventually going to look at. Another one is Ken Peasley, who is a senior criminal deputy county attorney. Another classmate of mine is Jesus Romo, who is a lawyer in private practice and involved in a lot of Hispanic community activities. Hector Estrada, who is a private practitioner here in town. Let me see who else. Joe Molina, I think we have Joe Molina, who is has a master's in law from Harvard and is an attorney in Washington, D.C.
Yes, I met him recently.
And then there are, well, the rest of the class is out there working hard. And I think they're happy. Seems like they're happy with the law. It seems like a lot of my friends or classmates stayed in Tucson.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And do many of them appear in court before you?
Some of them do.
That must
Some
be
of them-
interesting.
It's interesting because we used to be kids. I mean, you never get over the idea that you're a young lawyer, and it's really interesting to see that you're no longer a young lawyer, and that it's hard. It's not. I don't know that it's hard, but it's interesting because when we used to first come into the courthouse, nobody knew who we were. The judges didn't know who we were. We were appalled and shocked sometimes when a judge would call a lawyer by his first name, or a lawyer would do that to the judge, and he'd say, "Oh my God, how can this be?" And now we all know each other.
Right.
Now we're the judges and
Now you know how
the
it
senior
can be.
lawyers.
Yeah. Tell me about some of your favorite classes in law school.
Civil War Amendments by Bill Boyd. That was a wonderful class. I really enjoyed that. Tax by Art Andrews was a great class. The only thing I would say to Art is go faster in the beginning and slower at the end. I enjoyed that class. I took constitutional law from from Dean Ayers and Luther McDougall. And that was an experience that I don't think Dean Ayers ever got over. but it was a good class.
We'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well, that's three interesting ones. I'm not even sure if Civil War amendments is still taught.
yeah.
Tell me about the examinations in law school.
Well, one per class per semester.
Were they essay, multiple choice?
Most of them were essays.
Yeah.
I had a really bad experience with my first law school exam. We all come into it's contracts. We all come into
It's always
we all
contracts.
come in. We come into the classroom. We sit down. We get our questionnaires handed out. Everybody has her exams. Everybody has a blue book. I'm told that what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to read all the questions, allocate your time, and then start answering questions. Well, so I do that. And after I've done that, I happen to look up and I see two people writing furiously. Amy Shiner and Jan Wesselman. And it appears to me that they have both filled a blue book before I have even started writing. So I'm like, oh my Lord, what am I going to do? Well, I finished my exam and I did fine, but it was amazing when you could see that other people just had a lot to say and said it. I think they ended up being 1 and 2 in the class, and I don't know which one was 1 and which one was 2, but they apparently both deserved it.
Was there a lot of Socratic method teaching when you were in law school?
If that's called harassment, yes.
I think that's a good definition. Is there anyone who was really good at it?
Professor Ray J. Davis was really good at it.
I bet. Tell me about your graduation ceremony.
Well, I think it was in the Modern Languages Auditorium, presided over by Dean Livermore. My mom and dad were there, my brothers and sisters. I think it was over quickly. It was short. Got my diploma. Still didn't have a job. Still had to pass
take
the
the
bar.
bar.
So it was just a step in life.
Who were your favorite professors?
Well, let's see. I like Dean Ayers. I like Bill Boyd, Art Andrews, David Wexler, Robert Clark, and whoever else is watching this. If I didn't mention your name, that's the name was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't come up with it.
Were there any women faculty when you were in law school?
I don't think so, but that might have been coming like a year or two later.
Tell me about the building where you went to law school.
Well, we were at the law school, which when I was there was the new law school, because the old law school was the psychology building, but apparently it's now the old law school, which is the Franklin building. It's felt like 3 classes, first, second, and third year classrooms. Seemed like we all used the same 3 classrooms. Like it was 4 classrooms, and somehow we all fit in the 4 classrooms. guess there were more, but it didn't seem like there were that many.
Mm-hmm.
It was crowded.
Mm-hmm. What's the library like?
I'm told it was had all the books we needed.
What was the feeling on campus? Vietnam War was sort of winding down, but what was the atmosphere?
Well, if you're in law school, you don't go on the campus, so you the atmosphere was. Some people had been to Vietnam. Some people would never have gone, and some people were going from undergraduate to law school. I don't think we debated those kinds of things. We didn't discuss those things. That was something that happened. Law school doesn't really give you or encourage a rehash of political ideas. Mostly your first year, you're concentrating on mastering the material and getting used to the idea that you're, excuse me, back in boot camp where people abuse you.
Just good. Probably had a good experience there. You were prepared. Was there any event while you were in law school that happened at law school that sort of sticks in your mind that you'd like to share with us?
Well, to me, the most interesting thing was when at my third year at law school, I was the president of the Minority Law Student Association, and we were very interested in diversity admissions. And the first 2 years, Dean Ayers had been the dean, and Dean Ayers was very supportive of that, and so we had a new dean, and Dean Joe Livermore. So I felt that I needed to meet with him to see what things were, what he was like, and let him know what I was like. And so we arranged a meeting, and it's funny for me to say this, but normally I don't have a goatee, and normally I just have a mustache, but in those days I had a beard. So I make an appointment to see the dean, and I'd heard a little bit. He was from Minnesota, and I think maybe had been in the military, and I kind of felt, well, he'd been in the military, I got commissioned as an officer, there might be something there that we can get along with. And so I walk in to his office, and there's a man with a red and white pinstripe shirt, a very nice foulard tie, and no hair on his head. I don't know, I guess he'd shaved his head in those days. And I look at him, and I can see him looking at me. Here's a guy that's got hair everywhere. And I just, oh boy, this is going to be tough. Well, as it turns out, he was very nice, and he's a great guy, and we got more minority students admitted that year than we'd ever done.
That's great. I have some more semi-serious questions for you. How would you define, if you're going to give a characteristic of the law school when you were there, what would you define that as?
I think the law school faculty was in transition, and I think that the students, perhaps as much as they are now, were pretty much driven to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Was the faculty accessible to students?
guess so. I never really thought to go
Mm-hmm.
to see a professor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my feeling was they taught you what they wanted you to learn, and you learned what you needed to learn by studying.
Yeah.
And there, in the clinical programs, you could see him. I'm sure you could see him if you wanted to. I mean, there were times when the faculty had parties where we were invited, so certainly they were accessible.
Mm-hmm. If you were to change something about legal education today, you see young lawyers coming into your courtroom, what would that be that you'd like them to learn better in law school, or for us to do differently?
That's tough. I mean, I don't know how much what some lawyers need, what all lawyers need, is some common sense. It's great to know the law. It's great to know. You have to understand that in law school things are taught as there's either a right or a wrong answer. Well, the law's not quite like that. Perhaps it should be, but it's not. So students need to develop a little bit of common sense. They need to get a sense of humor or keep it. And they need to spend a little time in a courtroom learning what's good and what's bad. Because if your only experience in law is the person that hires you, that's great if you've got a good teacher. It's going to be horrible if you don't have a good teacher. Mm-hmm. So they need some kind of exposure to the law, mm-hmm. to how lawyers act or should act, mm-hmm. so they can develop a style consistent with their personality.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. So if you're going to convey a message to future law students, what would you tell them?
To future law students?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great life.
Good. Is there anything you'd like to see the law school accomplish in the future?
Let my daughter in? She'll be applying next year.
Is there anything else you want to add that I can ask you? Other than that? We'll show this to the admissions director.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, the law school gave me all the tools I needed. So you'd be hard pressed to tell you what else you should do. I mean, you can't tell me what to do, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's a good by me.
Good deal to me. Thank you so much for your. We can put it back on. Reggie Davis. Jim Rogers always says that he was like the guy who tortured him before.
And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how professors or whoever. I mean,
No, that's like asking for the perfect person.
I mean, you don't know what we're thinking, and you don't know what you should be doing. You just,
Right.
you know.